Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV, where we believe that you can be a giant in your own world. Today, we have a wonderful show. We're going to ask the question, can Big Macs prevent heart attacks? It's time to wake up the sleeping giant. Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I am Ryan Morris, co-host of Wake Up with Giants TV and co-creator of A Tribe of Giants and 12 Journeys Coaching. And as always, I'm here with your host, Nicholas T. Smith, the author of The Giants and the Smalls and the future New York Times bestselling book, The Tortoise's Hair. I'm putting that out there in the universe.
Yeah, put it on it. What's funny is at the beginning of the video, I was going to let the camera roll before I click the video, right? And just let you go, and then nothing. Just awkward.
Just look around. Am I here by myself?
You're on the table.
Oh, shoot. I'm so excited for today's show. We've got an amazing guest. He is a TikTok legend. And but before we get to my friend, we have the Y Fellowship happening the 29th, 30th, and October 1st. So if you want information on that, go to yfellowship.com. It's a men's retreat where we help men heal, grow, develop the tools they need to tackle the world, handle the world. Sometimes it comes straight at you.
Or DM us, email us, or send a carrier pigeon. Either way, we'll respond.
Anyway. Snail mail.
Snail mail. Literally a snail.
We're everywhere. So what else do we have going on at the moment, Nick? Too, I've been running around like crazy. I started a new job. They flew me out all over the place to get some training, and I barely caught my breath this morning.
Yeah, it's perfect. What we got going is we've got the integrative book roadmap trainings that we do. We got one coming up on the 25th. So if you haven't been through that training, we go through the 12 journeys of becoming a giant. We outline some of the main points of the book, the giants and the smalls. And I promise you'll walk away from that with a different view of yourself and what you're capable of in this world. So we have that coming up. We also have our SG program, our Sum Gigante program coming up in October. That'll be SG 12. That's our 12th cohort of groups going through that program. And that's all online. So if you want to be a part of that, you can do that from anywhere in the world. Pretty powerful program.
That's amazing. That's awesome. It's life-changing, and every time that people go through it, we've had some people go through it 3 and 4 and 5 times, and we tell them, whoa, take it easy. But every time they go, whoa. But what they do is every time they go through it, they get something different because they're in a different spot in life. So wherever you're at, we'd love to have you join us. And with that, I was in a weird spot in my life. I was scrolling TikTok, and boom, here comes Kevin talking about eating Big Macs. So we're going to dive into his story. Nick, will you introduce our guest?
I'd love to. Yeah, today we're diving deep with Kevin Maginnis, a man whose life story is as diverse as it is inspiring. From the rodeo arenas where he rode bulls and saddle broncs to the boardrooms of the top financial institutions, Kevin's journey is a testament to resilience and determination. He's trained tech giants, championed financial literacy, and even took on the audacious challenge of eating only McDonald's for 100 days, shedding an astonishing 59.5 pounds in the process. This is what's interesting. This is where you became TikTok famous, right? Out of all the other things you did, not that, right?
Absolutely. 30 years of coaching, training people at the highest levels, no notoriety. Eat a Big Mac on TikTok, you become world famous.
Right. Watch that dude eat a burger. It's amazing. So the cool thing about this is amidst all these challenges, Kevin's heart remains anchored in faith, family, and service. So as we explore the secrets of living a giant life, let's give a warm welcome to Kevin Maginnis. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for having me on. Seriously.
You're very welcome. Yeah, we love to, we've been labeled as unprofessional. I told you that at the beginning of the show here. So that's how we like to keep it. So we will be unprofessional throughout. And I don't know if the FTC monitors this, but we do allow language, but they might not. So it's up to you whether you want to use that or
not. All good.
Yeah, we love to explore your journey, even where you're at currently, but we like to explore and show people that are watching what it means to become a giant. It's a metaphor of living your giant life, your potential, right? And we always go back to the non-conscious journey first. We usually start there, but we don't have to. But what we mean by that is, people have a way of viewing themselves and they think that's who they are. So they show up in the world that way. And it's a lot less than they're capable of, but they don't believe that, right? Did you ever have a point in your life that was you?
For a large part of my life, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
My dad passed away when I was 16, and I left school in 10th grade, so I've only got a 10th grade education, and never made it back to high school, never made it to college, don't have any college degrees or anything. So I had this identity of I didn't even finish school, I didn't even graduate, and I started working 3 jobs trying to make ends meet, and we couldn't. And my mom and I literally lost everything. So we lived in a camper shell in the back of a truck for an extended period of time. So I don't come from money. I come, as Ron White would say, from a complete lack of money, from no money, and had that identity and that chip on my shoulder of someone who didn't graduate, doesn't come from money, and yet I grew up on a ranch breaking and training horses. Turns out training people and training livestock have a lot of similarities. Sugar cubes and cattle prods, and you can go right down with people.
Okay, so I got to talk about that because I was talking to my girlfriend about, to train humans, all we need is shock collars. It's easy, right? Yeah.
Pavlov actually makes a wrist thing that actually has electric shock therapy.
No way. Who does? Yeah. Pavlov?
Pavlov. Pavlok.
No way.
Yeah, so you can actually program it, like if you bite your nails, it has an accelerometer and knows you're reaching your hand up and actually shocks you. I mean,
oh my gosh. Okay, that's a game changer right there for me. Yeah. Hey, you're feeling a little anxious.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Interesting. Yeah. So training animals, training livestock, starting to realize, that there's probably in yourself first, there's a connection here, a correlation between training livestock and being who I want to be in my life, right?
Yeah, that actually happened where my first job, I went to the military, and when I got out of the military, my first job out of the military was at a sales organization. They told me to read a book, Zig Ziglar's Secrets of Closing the Sale. And Zig Ziglar was way ahead of his time. I mean, there's just some stuff that he covered from just human development and understanding how your brain works that just way ahead. And I had a really big chip on my shoulder. You're climbing on the back of a 2,000-pound bull, wants to stick a horn in you, stomp a mud hole in your chest. Some 185-pound guy at the bar looks at you sideways. You jump in the middle of them. It's like, whatever, let's go.
It's just what you do, right?
Yeah. I had a very short fuse. If I had road rage issues, if you were driving along and you cut me off, in my mind, you saw me and you intentionally cut me off, and I would tell you you're number one, but I wouldn't use that finger. I'd start having that dialogue in my head, you sorry SOB, and how dare you try and kill me? And I would literally follow people off the highway and try and catch you at a stop sign to yank you out of your car and beat the crap out of you. I mean, that was that.
Well, if you ever want to revisit that, come drive in Utah, and it'll bring it all back up to the surface. Yeah.
Well, so luckily, I mean, and imagine that lifestyle. Eventually, that's going to catch up with you, and you're not going to make it, right? Somebody's going to have a gun or something, and it's going to be bad. And luckily, I got the book on tape of The Secrets of Closing a Sale, and at one point he talks about how silly it is to let someone cutting you off control your entire world. They don't even know they committed the dastardly deed, and yet they're in complete control of your emotional life and potentially your life, right? And more than just kind of pointing out how dumb it was, he actually gave a way to overcome that. And long story short, it's basically he was getting on a flight at 2 o'clock that couldn't take off till 6 o'clock. And when the person telling him that says it, he's like, that'll be fantastic. And she says, sir, that's not how people normally respond. He says, in my mind, there's only 3 reasons why a plane doesn't take off. There's something wrong with the weather. They're going to fly the plane in. there's something wrong with the plane, or there's something wrong with the person that's going to fly that plane. And if any of those three things are going on, I want to be right here on the ground.
There's
and you just be reacting and responding.
Yeah, right. There's a guy that he says, the worst part of flying is the landing. He says, 100% of the accidents and deaths in airlines are when the plane hits the ground. He's like, it's the worst part of the plane.
Very seldom do they explode spontaneously.
Right.
Exactly. So anyhow, long story short, I literally, as people would cut me off, I'd say the next flight still leaves at 6:05. And it just, when you change, motion creates emotion. So if you move differently, you'll feel differently. So by changing what I was saying and how I was saying it, you can't be upset and agitated when you're talking at the next flight still leaves at 6:05. You can't be upset and talk at that pace at the same time. Your brain doesn't work that way.
Interesting, yeah.
So anyhow, that dramatically changed that. And if you want to hear about it later in the show, we'll talk about that's how I got my wife to marry me, by the way.
Okay, yeah, hang on to that because I do want to bring that up since you brought it up, right? So, one of the things we see is that when people wake up to who they are, so they have this thinking, this way of being in the world like you did, and they wake up to that. So many of them are really hard on themselves about that. They really judge themselves pretty harshly, but they also have justifications for being there. They have all the reasons why they get to be there. And so it keeps them from learning, and they also don't feel their emotions. So they won't allow themselves to feel the feelings that they're having. And so what would you say to somebody? What have you learned in your philosophies around that? How do you wake up to things like that are non-conscious? How do you navigate difficult emotions?
So first of all, it's being aware. I mean, how do you get aware of so we have to be willing to allow some others into our lives sometimes because we can't see our own golf swing. So for me on the weight loss journey, I woke up one morning, climbed on the scale, and it was 238 pounds. Now, I don't know where I read it, but somewhere in my life I read that as a man, if your waistline ever gets over 40 inches, then that's like a death knell. You're going to get heart attacks, strokes, diabetes, cancer, just all the different things that happen. And I know 238 pounds isn't the same thing as a 40-inch waistline, but I was at a 38-inch waistline, and it was just like that number 40 stuck in my head. And I'm like, this is it. I've had enough. There has to be that tipping point for someone where they decide enough is enough, that it's not acceptable, what the path that they're on. And sometimes that has to be an outside source. Sometimes it just has to be a wall that you finally come up against. Sometimes it has to be hitting rock bottom. For everyone, it's a little bit different how they get there. But at some point, if anything's going to change, you have to decide that something does need to change. Otherwise, you're going to continue, as you said, just to continue to justify why it's okay to be the way you are and do the things you're doing. Yeah. So that was it for me. That was the tipping point of the scale, tipping it almost to 240 pounds was that tipping point in my life. Just hearing Zig talk about those things and realizing that the path I was on wasn't going to get me where I wanted to go. I was struggling financially, hurting, and just obviously getting into fights on a consistent basis. It wasn't conducive to a happy life, right? So again, I think to your question, a person just has to finally realize that they want to make that change in the first place.
So they've got to wake up, right? So if you don't know you do it, there's nothing to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then when you do wake up, there's this resolve that comes through to do something about it, right?
Yeah. Hopefully that goes along with it. Because think about it. Why is it when a doctor tells some people, hey, if you keep eating this way, you're going to die of a heart attack, and the person keeps eating that way, and other people, when they get told that, they immediately make a change? It's what you associate pain to. Yeah. If you don't associate enough pain to the continued process, no pain, no change. Why would I change something that's not painful to me? Until I can actually imagine where this is going to lead, and visualizing and imagining it is so painful that that's unacceptable in my life, I've got to be willing to make a change. It's sort of like therapy. Why does some therapy work and some doesn't? And I love it when people, like, let's say injured soldiers coming home and someone says surfing. Oh, surfing's a thing. Because I took this soldier that lost a limb and they were scared of the water, but I got them on a surfboard and they surfed for the first time and it changed their life. I'm not doubting that it did change that person's life because they were scared of surfing. You helped them overcome a fear. Now another person will be like, oh, I got the soldier to ride a horse and horse therapy. That's it. When we can get this big wild animal and this person can overcome their fear and stepping on that horse. 100 soldiers can get on a horse and it doesn't change them, but that one person who's scared to death of climbing on the horse, and you help them overcome that fear and get up on that horse and actually have success at something they personally are afraid of, now their confidence of other things they're afraid of, that they can actually conquer those as well.
Yeah.
So it's not the surfing, it's not the horseback riding, it's not the zip lining, it's not the parachuting. It's with that individual. What's something they think they can't do right now that if we help them actually accomplish that, we get them to push through their fears in a safe way, in an environment that's conducive to them doing it safely, but in their mind, it's still just as scary. But if we can help them overcome that fear, push past it, and then have success on the other side of it, a whole new world of possibilities opens up for that person.
Yeah, we have a guy that we worked with, right, Ryan, that we called him two-stroke because he was hard to get started and he'd smoke all day. But the doctor told him to quit smoking. And he's like, I don't give a shit. So he'd continue to smoke, even knowing, this is going to kill you. It had no impact. And it's what you're talking about until it lands with you that this is important enough to do something about. It doesn't matter the medium. What matters more is the decision to do something about it, right?
It's a why. It comes back down to your why. If you don't have a reason why change? You're never going to take the action. And I found there was 5 things for me, and later we can cover the other 5. But I mean, the first one is what's the reason you're doing it? Why are you going to make the change in the first place? And what I always do when I work with someone is I have them write down 5 positive reasons why and 5 negative reasons why they want to change whatever this is we're going to work on, whatever we're going to change with them. If I can get them to write down 5 positive and 5 negative, and then we can dive deep into them, and I can actually get them to start visualizing the continued consequence of the negative ones and the continued upward spiral of the positive ones, and I'll find the 1 or 2 on either side, positive and negative, that are the most emotional for them. If I can identify 2 things, one pulling you and one pushing you in the direction you want to go, if I can find 2 that move you emotionally, the how-to becomes very easy. Right. So that's why I start with all is 5 positive and 5 negative, that if you don't change this, what are the potential consequences? If you do make this change, what are the potential positive outcomes in your life? And that gives me something to work with.
I like that. I would ask you this, before somebody gets to that point of moving towards something, how important is acceptance? And how do you define acceptance? Because I hear people give all these definitions, like resignation and loving what is, and I don't see it that way, but I'm curious about your view. How important is it, and how do you see it?
Okay, so the fact that you asked the presupposing question second, nice try. Yeah. I'm glad you ended with, I don't really believe it, but I'm going to ask this presupposing question as if it's true. So nicely done, but no, I'm not going to fall into that trap.
So you're not going to answer the question on acceptance?
I'm not going to answer the question.
Okay, good. Yeah, perfect.
Because I've been coaching, training people for over 30 years. My world is helping people get to the highest levels of success, mentoring millionaires, and I work with billionaires, and identifying areas that they want to improve. And you can't see your own golf swing. It's behind you. You can't see what's going on behind you. You've got to have someone else who can look at that. But there still has to be an awareness. So I don't think acceptance, I think awareness. I would just change the word. Because now, accepting yourself for who you are, that presupposes that this is who you are. I'm sorry, your beliefs, where did your beliefs come from? Do you think you chose your beliefs? Do you think in your life, the things that you believe, that you consciously weighed the value of that belief and you chose that as a belief? Because a belief is a feeling of certainty about something. My hypnosis, my hallucination is, no, you did not choose your beliefs. Your beliefs were given to you through circumstances, through environment, through the people you hung out with, and you accepted other people's beliefs, tried them on. The funny thing about a belief is once you have a belief, you'll start looking for justifications and proofs to justify that belief is real. And you can literally prove any belief you want to hold. Right? It's just a matter of holding it long enough until you find enough proof points to justify that belief. If people actually question their beliefs a little bit more, they said, wait a second, where did this come from? And is this something that really serves me? Is this belief really taking me to the next level? You would be shocked at how many beliefs we hold that are actually limiting beliefs, sabotaging beliefs, things that are taking us the wrong direction. So acceptance, no, I don't think you have to accept I think you have to look at and identify where you are so you can reach the goal. A lot of people talk about no pain, no change. But some people are so good at hiding their pain. If you're talking to them, you're not going to get them to talk about their pain. But what you can do is talk about their goals. What's something that's important to you? What's something you don't have now that you want to have in your life, or be in your life, or do in your life? And as soon as you identify a goal, asking them, why don't you have that? So anyone listening right now, if you have a goal that you haven't accomplished yet, whether it's an income, whether it's a relationship, whatever it is, type of house you're driving, type of car you're driving, or type of house you live in, type of car you drive, if you just ask one question, once you've identified the goal, why don't you have it yet? What's stopped you? What's held you back from accomplishing that? The answer to that question will always be pain. The answer to what stopped you, what's held you back, will always identify and illuminate the limiting belief, the limiting mindset, the stories you're telling yourself, whatever it is that's keeping you where you are. Now we have pain on the table. Now we've got something to work with. Now we have something we can actually attack, because the goal is always going to be the goal. We can always keep the goal. How we're going to reach the goal, there's a million ways to get to that goal. So the plan is way less important than having the goal. But until we have the goal, we can't identify what's been holding us back. Why don't we have it yet? The answer to that question is something we can attack.
Yeah. See, thank you for answering the question I asked you. You did perfectly. And sorry, leading the witness here.
At least we didn't badger the witness.
Yeah, badgering the witness now.
Hostile witness too.
You hit on it. The awareness is a key, but you also need to know where you're at, right? Where you are right now. And that's all I mean by acceptance, is you need to know where you're at right now. And when you question the beliefs and you really look at it, you look at your values, your beliefs, your ethics, morals, attitudes, personalities, they were all created over all the experiences you had. So where you are today is just simply what's been created to this point, right? If I were going to California and I stopped in Mesquite, Nevada, well, I would just be in Mesquite, Nevada. It wouldn't be a failure of a trip because I'm in Mesquite, Nevada. And that's how most people look at their journey here, is they look at where they're at and they think, oh, I've failed because I haven't gotten to where I want to go. But no, you're just in Mesquite.
On the road, you're on the process.
On the map, right? So you know where you are. And when you can have somebody look at your golf swing with you, like you say, and you wake up, let's say you wake up in Mesquite, Nevada, and you're golfing because they have great golf courses there. And somebody's able to look at that and help you to see where you are, and not only where you are, who you think you are in that point. Then you can decide how do you want to continue forward, right?
I didn't know there was a Mesquite, Nevada. I thought it was Mesquite, Texas, but I know there's Mesquite, Texas. Is there Mesquite, Nevada as well?
Yeah. Now you're never going to to forget it, right? Great casinos, buffets, and golf. And that's all there is there. And maybe a Walmart.
Desert sand.
And a liquor store, always.
Yeah.
Right. So, I look at your journey here as you get to and I know we're only going to touch the tip of the iceberg here with your philosophies, because you've had so much experience around training mentors, leaders, powerful people in the world that have created some big things, but they still don't see their blind spots. And I'm curious, we're going to dive into the Big Mac thing, because when you get to that point that you start to realize I'm in control of my life, I'm the one that determines where I go from here. You look at the unknown, everything's possible. All the resources, everything I need is already here to create with. And you wake up in the morning, you say, I'm going to eat Big Macs for 100 days. Like, maybe it wasn't that way, but okay.
No, it was that way. Just woke up one morning.
It was.
I was done at that point. I looked at the scale and I'm like, this is unacceptable. This is absolutely, there's no way I'm going to hit 240 pounds. I'm going to make a change right now. And I climbed in my car and drove to McDonald's.
Okay, so you have the vision, I'm going to lose weight, right?
Yes.
And of all the infinite possibilities, you drive to McDonald's.
Yes.
And you still accomplished your goal.
Absolutely. So I want to prove to myself and to everyone else out there, it's way less about what we eat, and it's way more about how much we eat. So I want to convince me and anyone else listening that all this villainy around food, the food is the killer. Oh, it's the food's fault. It's my upbringing's fault. It's my genetics fault. Guys, don't get me wrong. Do genetics play a role? There's some people who have, a super, super tiny percentage of the population would have the ability to hang their hat on that. But how many people do hang their hat on that? As opposed to realizing the ability to go to pork. So how did I lose almost 60 pounds in 100 days? I just cut the meals in half. I ate 3 meals a day of everything on the menu. Eating Big Macs to reduce my risk of heart attack. Can this quarter pounder with cheese lower my A1Cs? Don't be bitter while I'm eating my apple fritter and losing weight. While you're huffing and puffing, I'm eating my blueberry muffin.
He had 1 million of those, right? Every day.
Yeah,
hilarious.
It's gotta be true because it rhymes, right?
Yeah, well, eating this burrito makes you look better in a Speedo, right? You know, we'll never know on that one. It's like the 50 pop. We're never going to find that one out. Anyway.
So you're not going to put on a Speedo then?
No, that ain't going to happen.
Okay, all right.
So the first 100 days was all about eliminate obesity. The second 100 days was all about increase the beast in me. So we put the weight loss to the side and started doing the workouts. Because during that 100 days, I didn't do a single workout, no vitamins, no supplements, literally just portion control. I'd order a menu item off the McDonald's menu, like a meal number 7, meal number 3, whatever it was. I eat half the meal, save the other half for later, 3 meals a day. And I'd seek the heat before I eat, meaning I'd wait until my stomach was actually hungry before I ever put more food in. Not my head craving. I'd wait for that burn in my stomach, the growl, the whatever you want to call it, the change in physiology in my stomach, not in my mental desire to finish the rest of that.
Interesting.
You have to wrap up the other half and out of sight, out of mind. But after a while, you get to the point where now you got that habit instilled, and I just would only eat half and save the other half for the next meal. And we know that if you look at the menu, each menu item is about 1,000 calories. If you look at a meal, they're about 1,000 calories. So I was doing about 1,500 calories a day because half a meal 3 times a day. And that was dramatically less than I'd been eating before that. So consequently, if I'm putting less calories in, then I'm burning more than that. Just by moving around, I'm burning at least 2,200 calories a day just by normal activities, not going and working out. So you're going to be in a calorie deficit. The weight is going to come off, period. But not only does the weight come off, my triglycerides went down by over 200 points. My cholesterol went down by 65 points. My A1Cs went from pre-diabetic to healthy. Every way you can measure someone, dramatically better health in that 100 days. And I posted my weight every day and my blood work along the way so everyone could see complete transparency.
Yeah, I like that.
It was amazing to watch that because there were a lot of people that were like, that's impossible. And then he'd show like the stats from the doctor, and I know their minds. I don't know if they would come back on and see how.
Great question. No, literally, there was one guy, and people kept saying as I would interact with the haters, they're like, why are you interacting? Just ignore the trolls. And Ryan said, I responded to every single comment I could. I mean, TikTok would actually shut me down from being able to respond to comments.
Too many comments.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
No, literally multiple times. I mean, like 5 or 10 times throughout the 100 days. Because I get so many comments, and I respond to every single one of them. And they'd say, you're responding too fast, take a break. And they wouldn't let me respond for another 24 hours before I could go in. I'm like, I'm just responding to the comments that people are asking. But I guess it looks like you're spamming or something. So
they started it, right? You're like, they started it.
But this one guy kept saying, that's not true. And he's like, you're holding weights. You must be holding weights, climbing on the scale, just dropping a little bit of weight every day. Because I take a video of the scale every time as I stepped on the scale to show the scale, moving.
Who would even think of doing that? Like, I wouldn't even think of that.
What's that?
Of dropping weights? Like, I'm dropping weight, guys.
I was trying to pretend like I was losing weight by dropping a weight every day or something, right? So I'm gaming the system. So about halfway through, while I still had a big gut, I actually did a swim trunk, topless view. Like, sorry guys, I hate for you to have to look at this, but no smoke and mirrors. You can see the scale climbing on, see the dial move, right? So you know that literally everything I've been posting was integrity every single day. And finally, that guy did come back on, Ryan. He's like, all right. He said, every single challenge someone has given you, you've backed it up, you've proven it. People were saying, you're not even really eating the food, you're just taking a bite, and then you're like just fasting the entire time. And so I'd actually take videos and I'd just do time lapse and speed up the whole video so people could see me eating the food. I mean, but every single person, if they had not like you're eating babies, some people are like, oh, there's human meat inside McDonald's. I wouldn't respond to those people. But when it came to anything that a legitimate, that somebody else could believe what they were saying,
babies.
I go ahead and prove it. I prove it. I have no problem being transparent to everybody. And he did come back around and go, man, all right, I believe.
I think of the guy that he's like complaining to his friend. He's like, my gut's so big I can't see my junk. And the guy's like, well, did you think to diet? And he said, well, what color is it now? See, terrible jokes. This is where the FTC would shut me down, right?
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, my wife had kept telling me I need to get in shape, and I would tell her round is a shape, so we're good.
I have a sticker on my truck that says round is a shape.
You do not.
I do. I'll send it to you. That's hilarious.
That's awesome.
Well, so as I look at this as, a creation. So in the framework that we use when we train, we look at uncertainty as the possibility. Everything's possible to you. Everything's available. Abundance is simply everything you need to create that possibility is already around you, right? And then going from that to visioning what you want to create. So in your case, you visioned, I'm going to lose weight, right? Then what I think people do is they have this flipped. They start with, how am I going to do this with my current abilities and skills and resources? And then they vision from that. So they limit themselves to what they can see with what they have. And our view is, don't do that. Let the how come about after. Surrender the how, not the vision, right? In your case, you weren't going out to be a TikTok star. You were going out to prove to yourself more than anything, I'm going to eat just nothing but McDonald's. And I'm going to show that, what people think around weight loss is not accurate. And I'm going to share it. Right. But the vision wasn't to be a TikTok star. It was to share. Is that right? Or
so it's close.
Okay.
Part of it, but the real thing that happened in my life was my daughter said, hey, if you're going to do it, because the 5 things, and again, we can dive or not on them, but one is you have to have a big why. What's your reason why? Without a big why, nothing's going to change. The second thing, you have to have some sort of plan. How are you going to try to go about it and then adjust the plan as you go? There's got to be some sort of tracking mechanism. There's got to be some sort of track it to attack it. How are you going to know whether you're moving closer to the goal or not? And for me, it was going to be my video food log was going to be that track it to attack it kind of thing. She said, hey, if you're going to do a video food log anyway, if you're going to take a video of every meal that you eat, why don't you post it on TikTok? And I said, because I have no idea how to post anything on TikTok or any other social media platform. And she says, that's okay, Dad. You just do the videos, send them to me, and I'll post them on TikTok for you. And that lasted for all of 3 days before she's like, this is a hassle, Dad. You need to do it yourself. And she literally kicked it all back to me. But luckily, she's got a big following. Brianna Z Finance. She just does an amazing job. She's got like 80,000 followers, all just around financial concepts. So she knew about the hash browns or the hashtags or whatever those things are that you need to put on stuff. So then she did the editing on the first one, and she showed me how to put the words. I had no idea how to put the words on none of it, right? And luckily, that very first video that she posted went to over 2 million views, right? So that started the whole thing off. But no, I didn't set out to get a following on TikTok. I literally was just doing my food log, and I knew there'd be some accountability if the log was out there. That a few people, I didn't expect it to be, the 20 million views that I've had now, but I knew there'd be some people that actually help hold me accountable to my commitment of every day weighing in and knowing that if I went off track, I ate more than half the meals, that the scale would be going up. So the fact that the scale was staying the same or going down every day proved that I was staying true to what I was saying I was going to do.
Yeah, amazing. So I see that, and as we look at our journeys as well, as the nurture part of our journeys is all about accountability. It's about growth. It's about maintenance. It's about self-care as you're growing your dream and vision. And our final journey is legacy, which feeds through everything. Your why, right? Like you talk about. All of these pieces come together to create this perfect storm of creation. And it's not about getting famous. I mean, that might be a byproduct of what you're doing. It's not about wealth. That might be a byproduct of what you're doing. But it's about creating a vision and a goal and a dream and going after it with incomplete information. You don't know how you're going to do it. You had no idea that, whether it was going to be the blueberry muffin or the burrito. You just knew, I'm going to reach this goal. I'm going to do this to try and get there. It's one of many possibilities for me to reach the goal that I'm going to go after. Like you could have easily said, I'm going to do Wendy's or Taco Bell and done the same thing, right?
Yeah, I wrestled in school. I boxed in the military. I knew that portion control, if you ever want to lose weight, just eat smaller meals, you're going to lose weight. If you do the same activity and eat smaller meals, you have to lose weight. It's physically impossible not to. The math is the math. I don't care, male, female, over 50, under 50. And halfway or 3/4 of the way through the journey, my wife even said, you're getting all this notoriety, you're losing all this weight, I want to lose them too. And so she jumped on the bandwagon and she lost 20 pounds in the last 60 days of the challenge, or last 40 days of the challenge. She came on 60 days in. And, you know, she's over 50 woman. So all the people there, well, that's working for you, but it wouldn't work for a woman. And she went ahead and proved all them wrong.
Amazing. Amazing. And her enrollment into what you're doing came from you doing what you were doing. You didn't have to.
No, I told her, I'm like, you need to lose weight. What's wrong with you, fatty? Like, yeah, you know for a fact that those words never came out of my mouth.
You know what's funny is I took my girlfriend to breakfast, and we were having a deep conversation, and she starts crying about, you know, an emotional thing. And this guy comes up and he taps me on the shoulder. He says, "Excuse me," and he looks at her. He goes, "Ma'am, are you okay?" And I'm like, "What do I look like? Do I look like the type of guy that's going to come in here and break hearts?" You know, and yeah. And she starts, you know, after she's like, "I totally missed my opportunity. I should have said, he told me I can't eat anymore, right? He told me I'm fat." I'm like, "You totally did." Yeah. Yeah, that would have been interesting. You would see me fighting in a breakfast place, but yeah, for no reason. Like I have no idea why I'm even doing this. Just defending.
That would have been awesome. That would have been epic. If
things you never say to your wife, right, or girlfriend. So
no, literally, it's just she saw the results, and I definitely never said, because my whole reason for doing this was longevity. I want to meet my grandkids' kids. You see overweight 60-year-olds, you don't see overweight 80-year-olds. It just doesn't happen. Right? So, I mean, like super, super small percentage. You pass away if you're overweight at that age. So if I was going to be around, to your point, longevity was the goal. And then when she saw me getting the results, she's like, "I want to jump on that bandwagon." If I would have told her you need to do this, that would have been the opposite of longevity. There would have been a pillow over my head that night, right?
Yeah, that would have been short-tevity. Short, yeah. You know, it's interesting. I hear, you know, the reason, longevity as a reason, but longevity is also a goal, right? So goals become reasons. And reasons become goals. So they thread through everything. So this vision, and we see, you know, I see vision as imagining beyond what is. Einstein says that imagination is more important than knowledge. And here you imagined beyond what was, because your what was 238 pounds approaching a 40-inch waistline, right? That was your reality. And you woke up to that and you're like, "Oh shit, this is my reality. This is where I'm at. This is where I am on the map."
That's unacceptable.
Yeah.
Where I'm at, and that's unacceptable.
And I'm not going to stay here because I really don't like Mesquite, Nevada. So then you got on the road and you kept going, but you chose a certain pathway of infinite possibilities to go to your destination, right? And part of that is a longer destination called longevity, right? It's a further out goal, but it's still a goal, right? Is a why. Tell me about why. Like, what is why to you? What is meaning to you? What is legacy to you? And why is that so important?
So I've got 5 grandkids now. And again, my dad passed away when I was 16. And I know what that did for me. I know what that did to my brother. I know what it did to my mom. I just, and not having any protection in place, not having, like, all the money we had got eaten up by hospital bills before he passed away, had no life insurance in place when he passed away. So thus living in a camper shell in the back of a truck. That was my life. We had hot and cold running water. When it was hot outside and I ran to get it, it was hot running water, right? But anyway, so
we had ice cream in the winter. We would go get snow and put vanilla and milk in it. Yeah, like no joke.
So that ability to never want to have I'm sure it gave me calluses. I'm sure it made me part of what made me the man I am today. Guys, there's other ways to build calluses. That's not the way you have to do it, right? So just because you can make, you know, silk purse out of a sow's ear doesn't mean you have to. There's better, easier ways to go about those things. And so not wanting my kids or grandkids to have to go through. And when I reached 55, because he passed away when he was 55 years old, and part of it was lifestyle, part of it was some injuries from rodeo. He was a bull rider as well. And so if he held his arm up, his arm would literally hinge because it was broken, and they couldn't go in and fix it from the time he was 20 years old because he's a hemophiliac. He'd bleed to death if they tried to fix it. So those bones were always rubbing on each other. So he's in constant pain. So there's pain medication and just other lifestyle choices that ended up taking his life. And watching what happened to me, knowing what I went through, I didn't want that to happen to my kids or my grandkids. And I want to be around to meet my grandkids' kids. I want to be there long enough. But the only way to do that would be to get rid of the obesity and to build up some physical health, build up the muscle, build up the endurance to be able to maintain that, to have that legacy. And it wasn't going to happen. What I was doing was taking me on a fast track to not being here anymore and doing to my grandkids what happened to me.
It became your reason. I love Viktor Frankl's work, and he says the meaning of life is to give meaning to life, and we make it up, you know. And so you made it up. You created this idea. I don't want to be like that. That's my reason, and that threads through everything I do from here, right?
Absolutely.
So it becomes a purpose. One of my favorite definition of purpose is from the Latin propose. It's a place to move forward to pause. It's a rest stop. Like a purpose is a rest stop. And people keep saying, I want to find my purpose. It's like finding a Maverick or, you know, a gas station. It's like, that's exciting, right? To find it, it's already there, but you get to create it, right? There are myriad purposes in life. It's all made up, just like yours is. I have a version of that that's my own, and it's created, right?
Yep.
And then it gets anchored in, it becomes a value system, and it becomes the foundation of everything that follows. Right.
Yes.
So when I look at, I love that you used McDonald's to create a pathway, because it truly shows like any pathway is possible to not only is your dream possible, but the pathways are also infinite.
And that, what I said earlier was that you have the goal, lock onto the goal, but be willing to be flexible enough to take multiple directions to get there, and be willing to change that. If you ever remember Family Circus back in the day, in the cartoons, and the kid would be told, go straight home, and there's a straight line from where they were to home. Right. There was always this circular through the playground, through the neighbor's backyard, petting the dog, right? All this
and
stuff.
All the dotted lines, right?
Right?
Yes.
That is the path to success. Success is never going to look like this straight line. As soon as you put a plan in place, understand that no plan withstands the first shot of battle. Right? But it's important. The planning process is incredibly important because it tells your mind there is a way to get there. But if you get rigid on that, it's going to be very uncomfortable in your life. Being totally flexible on the path. And I used to do an exercise when I do group trainings back before COVID, where I'd have everyone in the room get to one side of the room, everyone stand up, 1,000 people in the room, 100 people in the room, didn't matter. And you're going to go from this side of the room to that side of the room. The goal is to go from this side of the room to that side of the room, but you have to do it different than everyone who's gone before you.
Ryan, does that sound familiar? Remember that with the kids?
We did that down in southern Utah, where we there was this little square rug, and we put in all these roadblocks, and the kids had to dive and dip and dodge and all these things. And every kid did it differently. And they all went to the same place. They all made it to the finish line.
There you go. And that's the question I would ask people before we started the exercise. What's more important, the goal or the plan to get there? And you get the room divided. 50% would say the plan is the most important thing. How are you going to get to a goal if you don't have a plan? And half the room would be like, no, it's the goal. That's the most important thing. And we do the exercise. And everyone would have, and then you can make them go back the other way and now all the things you thought you were going to do are gone. Everyone's already taken them. Now you have to be creative and come up with new ones. And by the time you do the exercise about 3 times, everyone finally realizes the goal is the only thing that's important. The plan can change 1,000 times. As long as you stay locked in on the goal, you'll find a way to get there.
That's funny because we tend to argue about the methodology more than the vision, right? We argue over right and wrong about the methodology more than the vision. Nope. It's like, are you doing it the right way? Like, how can we even ask that if there are infinite ways to get from A to B or Z or wherever? How can we argue about the pathway? Because one person might do it with Big Macs, another person might do it with Jenny Craig. They might do it different ways, but you're all still arriving at the goal.
Right.
I mean, the power in what you did is just,
Eating poison will make me lose weight because I'll be dead. My skin will rot. So if I ate arsenic every day, I would still lose weight, but not in a way that would sustain my life. Right. So there are, like, you can swing the pendulum all the way over too far, right? But within reason, there's a myriad of possibilities.
Yeah. I think Charles Darwin said that it's not survival of the fittest or the most intelligent, it's the most adaptable to change. And that's what you're describing here. We talk about surrender as rendering over the pathway. You never let go of the vision, you just let go of the how. You just let the how be the how. There are infinite ways to get from where you are to what you have in mind, what you're imagining.
Flexible tree bends in the storm, rigid one gets snapped off.
Yeah. Yeah. The rigid one gets snapped off, right? Yeah. I have seen it. I've experienced that with people. We had a customer, when I was doing finance, they came in and they said, we got our bank, we've got our approval, they're 800 credit scores. They went to their bank. I said, you sure you don't want me to try? We've got 80 banks we can go to. They said, no, our way is the way. It's going to work. So they walk in and it sounds like it, right? They go into their bank and they decline them. And they come back and they say, we can't get approved. We're giving up on our dream to own an RV. And I said, well, I've got 80 banks. You sure I don't want to get you done here? And they said, no, our way didn't work. It's just not God's way. It's not meant to be. We're going to resign. Right?
God is like, I sent you Nick Smith, the finance wizard.
Yeah. But we do that, right? We say, it didn't go the way I thought it would, so I'm giving up on it, and the truth is try another way. Edison showed us that 10,000 ways that didn't work, but he kept going. Henry Ford was another one. Chris Gardner from Happiness, The Pursuit of Happiness. He's another one. It's just, when you get one barrier, you detour, you go another way, right?
Over it, around it, through it, whatever it takes. And that's why I love working with athletes, because a lot of athletes have that mindset. They've had enough coaching. They've had enough good coaches in their life. They know what grind means. They know to show up for the 2-a-day practices. And they realize that if a play gets broken up, you find another way. That play got broken up. I guess we're supposed to
pause, everybody. Yeah, it didn't go to the plan. Can we do over? Right?
Right? Yeah.
That's a valid visual too. Could you imagine watching the NFL and every time they like run a play, it doesn't go well, they stop the game?
He'd be watching the Browns at that point.
To all our giant Browns fans.
The Detroit Lions, which is one of my
right?
favorite teams. They've been losing since like 1980 something. So
that's funny.
Hey, they're still trying. They're still looking for ways.
Yeah. Well, so, if we look at the pathway here, truly it all starts with you. It all starts with who you think you are. So when you find yourself in that space where energetically you're feeling down, depressed, defeated, despairing, hopeless, that's the time to wake up, is in the emotion of it. Like what is going on in here that's creating that emotion? And then when you wake up to that, like you say, it's really, what do we do now that we're aware of where we are?
But how do you get out of that emotional state? So the challenge is, when you're in a limited mindset, when you're in a world is crashing down on me mindset, you don't have access to all your resources.
No.
So state control, being able to put yourself into a positive state. The analogy I use all the time, since we're talking sports, is look at a team leaving the locker room. They're not like saying, okay, guys, let's go get them. Let's go win one for the Gipper, right?
It's
the shoulder pads, it's banging their heads on the lockers, it's clapping, it's cheering, it's running out onto the field. There's something about that energy of putting those athletes don't feel like that in the morning. They didn't wake up going, we're gonna win. They could have walked in and their girlfriend left them that morning. They got indigestion, but the coaches know that mindset isn't going to win. What was on one of the Terminators? It might have been the second Terminator. The kid's kind of feeling depressed, and Arnold just kind of gets in his dish. He's like just beating on him basically, and the kid gets all pissed off. He's like, "What? Why'd you make me so mad?" He's like, "Because anger is a better emotion than apathy at this moment."
Right.
And he put him into that state so the kid wouldn't just be sitting there like a lump on a log. Let's take action. Let's do something. But you can't do something if you're in this state of apathy. So learning how to control our states, learning how to move differently to feel differently, learning how to pump ourselves up. The average person doesn't have that built-in skill set like a trampoline that as soon as they start getting depressed, it bounces them back out of that. And that's one of the things is if we don't control the movies that we're playing in our mind, we don't control the words that we're saying, because most of us talk more negatively to ourselves than we ever let anyone talk to us. And yet, if we don't learn to control those movies, we don't learn how to put a new DVD into the DVD player, we're just going to keep falling back into playing that old DVD that keeps bringing us back to the same emotional states we've been living in. Until that changes, nothing else is going to change.
Yeah. If a stranger came up to you and talked to you the way you talk to you, you'd have a bar fight, right? Yeah. It truly is. And even recognizing that we do that, I'm yet to experience very many people that don't do that. They have some version of negative self-talk. And Lisa Feldman Barrett in her work talks about how emotions are always generated by thoughts, always in that order. Emotions always, whether you're conscious of it or not, there was a thought or a judgment of your world that created that emotion. And so when people can recognize their emotions and soothe the body, like you say, hack the emotions with the body, because the body is designed to override emotions. Breathing will override emotions. Talking, like you just said, will override emotions and thinking. And so when you learn to do
motion
that,
can create motion. Right.
Yeah.
Motion,
Yeah.
moving, saying, speaking. Motion can. It's not the only thing that creates emotion, but motion can create emotion. So since motion creates emotion, choosing to move our body differently will always change how we feel. It's not the only way, but it's a way that's a body hack, to your point. Absolutely. Go on.
Yeah, no, I like that, because you're talking about possibilities here, just like McDonald's. This is a
Move
McDonald's
differently,
moment.
feel differently. Correct.
Yeah. So how important is it to feel those emotions? Like, should people feel those emotions, or should they numb them out?
All emotions are valid. All emotions are valid. Living in those emotions is not valid. All emotions are valid, but they're a call to action. They're not so when I was boxing in the military, to make the boxing team, to get on the U.S. Army boxing team, you have to train for 3 months. You're already in great shape. You already made it through basic training. You're already in good shape. You're already doing PT every day. And now you're going to try out for the boxing team. You train for 3 months, 3-hour workouts a day, pools of sweat underneath you, 6 miles of running a day, and you just get in this phenomenal shape. And they spend all this time training you, getting you to the point to try out for the team. They finally put you in the ring, but there's 2 things they don't know about you. Well, they don't know which of these 2 things you're going to do. When you finally get hit for the first time, because no one's laid a glove on you at this point, 3 months of training, no one's laid a glove on you. You've hit the heavy bags, you've worked the speed bags, you've done the drills, all the stuff. You finally step in the ring and someone's about to lay leather on you. What they don't know is when somebody else punches you in the face, are you going to curl up or are you going to bow up? Are you going to curl up in the fetal position, or are you going to bow up and throw a punch back? They don't know that about you until they put you in the ring. Luckily or unluckily, I was the guy that would bow up. So, I had no issue with that. Like, let's go.
Yeah,
leather on me, I'm about to put some leather on you. Let's make it happen. But I learned very quickly that boxing and fighting are 2 completely different things. I stepped in the ring thinking that my fighting experience was going to serve me in the boxing ring. So unbeknownst to me, the guy that they put me in the ring with was one of the top 10 amateur boxers in the country. And I step in the ring with him, and the bell rings, and I take it to him, right? We meet in the center, but I work him back into a corner, and I'm throwing punches with everything I've got, thinking that any one of these punches landing in a street fight, the other guy's down, right? It's done. But he is just like laying back, rolling with the punches, no big deal, right? And after about 30 seconds, I'm like trying to use my whole body to throw. I'm just gassed, right? And he sees that he peeks out from between his gloves, sees that I'm breathing hard, opening my mouth, and for the next 2.5 minutes, I am just a human punching bag for him to beat the crap out of for the next 2.5 minutes. And I get to my corner at the end of that first round, and they're like, "So, are you done?" I'm like, "No, let me back in. Let's go."
Yeah.
We got one.
So what would you say to somebody that's in the curl up? Like, they get into the curl up. Let's say they get hit with life. They get into the curl up. How would you talk them through that?
My first question is always, if I wanted to feel the way you're feeling right now, what would I have to focus on, say to myself, and hold my body in that position? How would I feel like you're feeling? Help coach me through how to feel what you're feeling. Right.
That's an amazing question right there. Wow. Coach me through it. That creates awareness in them, right? That creates a mindfulness in them. It creates a describing of the feelings. It creates a separation. So you just created with one question, a distinction between who they are and what they're describing.
And,
right?
And what they're choosing to do, what they're choosing to focus on, what they're choosing to allow their body to do, what choices are they making right now? And they start to realize it is a choice. They're choosing to run those movies. Now, they don't know they're choosing it. They're not really choosing to run the movie. The movies weeds grow automatically. You don't have to plant weeds. You have to plant flowers. Weeds grow automatically. So the movies that are running in their mind, the things that the conversations they're having are like weeds. They're growing automatically. But they now realize they could consciously plant flowers instead of letting those weeds take over their garden. They could consciously choose to run different movies. And so that's one of the next steps, is identifying some movies in their life, times, situations where they've had confidence, times when they've been resilient, times when they've been able to overcome obstacles, and having those movies, those DVDs that they can put in and play when the weeds start growing, to realize, oh wait, I'm starting to run my old movies. Let me put a different movie in. Let me play a different movie now. Let me start visualizing. Let me stand up. Let me move around. Let me breathe higher versus lower. I mean, just all the things we identified. If I asked you to describe a depressed person standing outside your door, there's a certain way that person's standing, they're breathing. Describe that to me. We could all describe that person. They're looking down, they're breathing shallow. Now, if talking about someone who's excited outside your door, who's got possibility, who's got confidence, and they describe that person to you. And just by describing the two, they realize that, oh wait, I can choose to start moving in a little bit different direction than I've been moving, and start taking control, that life hack like you're talking about.
I love that. Ryan, final thoughts here?
You know, I knew that at some point my endless scrolling of TikTok was going to pay off, and today was that day. So, from a burrito to a Speedo, Kevin has delivered today, and I without trying to sound like Dr. Seuss anymore, I'm grateful. It's interesting. You go down different paths. Kevin went down a different path. I didn't know Kevin before a few months ago. I was doing my thing. And at night, sometimes, you know, like in the down moments, I'd scroll TikTok, and I'm still a relationship guy. So I'm like commenting, liking, sharing, supporting his lives. You know, I find good people.
Throwing the flowers or whatever out there.
Yeah, like some gifts and stuff like that to help spur some movement on TikTok. And instantly, Kevin's message, Big Mac. His message hit, and I related because of the person that he's being and what he's doing matched the words. It wasn't just, you know, you could tell pretty quickly that it wasn't for notoriety. He said, I mean, in the first 3 days, his daughter stopped doing the TikToks for him. And so he had to dive in. It was like sink or swim. He had choices at that moment to give up or keep going. And you watched progressively as his videos got a little better, and his messaging got a little more on point, because he figured out the buttons to push and what to do and when to do it. And he followed that formula. But truly, the formula was in Kevin committing to that, doing the doing, and being who he was, which kind, loving, supporting, generous, committed. You could go through all the positive things, and Kevin is that. And he was doing that for his supporters. There's a reason why it went viral, but there's also a reason why it was consistent, and why people kept showing up because of what he was doing. And I don't believe in accidents. Nick and I don't believe in accidents. I believe that things happen for a reason, and I'm grateful that that our paths cross, brother. Because your message is our message is your message. It takes good people doing good in the world to continue to spread the good, and to keep it at least at a higher point than the down, because there's a lot of down sometimes, you know, and life can be difficult, and it's easier to focus on the negative than it is the positive. And so having people like you in the world, Kevin, that are out there, they're showing people a different perspective or a new perspective, and sometimes it's only a degree or two off, and they start to see results. They have belief in themselves, and that's what we're trying to do, is just to share that you're a giant already. Go out in the world and decide what you want, because the world literally is your oyster or your burrito or your Big Mac. It's whatever you just choose it to be and how to see it. So thank you. Now I'm hungry. Now I want to go to McDonald's. So we're going to end the show here in a few minutes. But I just wanted to express my gratitude for all the things you're doing. And we hope our paths continue to cross and run side by side as we move forward in the future.
Awesome.
Absolutely love it. And I'm thankful, because I've met so many amazing people through this, and so many people that followed along that did their own journey. Some went with Big Mac, And they've actually started getting some news notoriety right now. Grandma Barbara is down like 65 pounds. And then so many other people have lost 30, 40, 50 pounds. Some did it with Chick-fil-A, like Finish Well Dave, and others.
They're not open today. So we can't go do Chick-fil-A challenges today. We have to
yeah, right. That's one way to lose weight is you just don't get to eat on Sundays, right?
Yeah, that's right. They're helping you out, man.
There you go. But yeah, it's been a blessing to actually to know that it influenced anyone, and anyone's life changed because of something I did or said. And it's not me. Obviously, God was able to touch them through what the message they heard and just gave them a little bit of guidance. And it's stuff that we already know we could do. It's just seeing someone else do it. Sometimes we're like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it too. And they start taking different actions. And that's the key. We can control our attitude and we can control our actions. Those are the only two things we have control over. Everything else is going to continue to happen. But if we can learn to control those two things, we can change everything.
What would you say as a final thought to those that are watching, just as a wrap up here? What would you share with the person that's looking at this screen right now?
Listen to YouTube, tune in more often. Like literally, you're pulling people together that are sharing information that can change their lives. So the good that you're doing, we have no understanding of the ripple effect that's going to happen, the lives that we're touching, that they're going to touch someone else's life and touch someone else's life, and how that's going to completely change a family, a community, a country. So anyone listening, continue to plug in with you. You guys are doing an amazing, amazing job. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. For those that are watching, we appreciate you. We love your comments. So we always bring those up. Sometimes we get to them, sometimes we don't, but we always notice. So we're just grateful for the energy that you bring to the Giants. For those that are watching that maybe are new to this, if you haven't joined us on Facebook, join us on a Tribe of Giants on Facebook. That's our global community. And that's where we feed all of this information into. So it's kind of the hub of everything. So join us there. If you don't know where to go, that would be where I would start. And as always, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're right on time. You're not missing out on anything. Start from where you are. Rich Litvin says that vision is where you're coming from, not where you're going. Remember that. So who you think you are creates your vision, and that vision is what leads you to your changed life, right? Your why. It becomes your why. So we appreciate you, Kevin. You've got an amazing story. You definitely are a giant in this world. Thank you for being on with us.
I'm glad to be here and appreciate what you guys are doing. Thanks so much for having me. You guys have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. For those that are watching, go make it a giant day, and we'll see you in the next video.
Love you too.